You guys, I just rewatched Endgame, and compared to the gelatinous glop we've been getting with Phase 4, it almost made me cry how good it is. When it was first released back in 2019, before COVID, before theaters shut down and the world stopped turning, we could all sit next to each other in a packed theater, raw-dogging air and cheering our heads off at Cap wielding Thor's hammer. But after an entire phase of disjointed movies and TV shows, I'm able to look back and appreciate just how crazy it was to see all these stories tied up together in such a clean and satisfying way, and just how lucky we all were to share such a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So today, I want us to revisit the iconic end battle and pick it apart from every angle. So where do we start with a battle so epic? Let's start with the portal scene. I'll admit it, I still get emotional watching this. Don't judge me! Just when you think all hope is lost, Sam's voice crackles through, and you're hit with the realization that all our favorite heroes are coming back for one last stand. The swelling Avengers theme as everyone lines up, Cap yelling Avengers, the music dropping, assemble, Thor's yell, then the music kicking back in as all our heroes rush towards Thanos. This sequence of events has burned itself into my mind, you don't understand. But as great as this scene was, it also single-handedly ruined all future Marvel battle scenes. This single shot of the army behind Black Panther, now that is the full might of Wakanda. Not this elementary school play, or this Zumba class in the park, or this line at Costco waiting for samples. Every time we get to one of these baby battles, it never feels like anything that serious is at stake, because there's only like 50 people max fighting each other. It always ends up pulling me out of the story, and why is that? Because we were utterly spoiled by Endgame. But let's get back to the good stuff. Just look at this charging shot. Look at how much is going on. The entire frame is filled up. You got your live-action main characters running in front, all your CG characters in the mid-ground, like Spider-Man swinging from Antman's hand, and Rocket surfing on Rhodey, huge armies in the far background, these lights in the sky, adding in the wreckage and smoke elements, more CG characters flying a camera, Hulk smashing a Chitauri hovercraft, then throwing this dude. The Leviathan used to be a huge threat in the first Avengers, and now Ant-Man just punches one in the face. And then how the camera comes back down to continue the action. I will never, ever, ever get tired of watching the visual effects breakdown for this monster of a shot. If you watch enough of them, you'll find other little things too, like this. When Chris Evans was shooting this scene, he was already holding the hammer as he turns around. So not only did they add a CG hammer as the camera whips over to him, they had to paint out his original hand and give him a completely new one that grabs it. Or this shot, where he's just swinging a stick and they have to add in the metal part in post. Man, I love visual effects. But now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the lighting. The best thing Endgame ever did was having this battle during golden hour. It's when the sun gets low enough and starts hitting everything just right for that cinematic look. Who could ever forget this majestic shot of Cap standing up to Thanos' army? It's good enough to print out and hang in the Louvre. And that's not to mention all the detail we see in the sky when the sun shines through the clouds. Not to compare too much, but that's something that's sadly been missing from most Phase 4 movies so far. Things are either a bit too bright and boring, like the Doc Ock bridge fight in No Way Home, or too dark and murky, like the end battle in Love and Thunder. I mean, just look at this. What is going on? The fight at the beginning of Shang-Chi was the last time I remember them trying something a little more creative, but even that got lost by the end, where things again turned pretty flat and ugly. But something equally important as the lighting is the shot layout. Take a look here. The ground the actors are standing on blends so well with the green screen that it's hard to find a spot where the background is really that obvious. Think back to shots like this, where it's clear that the actor is just standing in front of a whole wall of green screen. It works well for close-ups since you don't see where they connect with the ground, but when you pull back to wide angles, it doesn't really hold up the same way. Next time you're pulled out of a Marvel shot and you can't tell why, this is why. But back to the battle. The action only intensifies as we see more examples of teamwork. Clint handing the glove off to T'Challa, who hands it off to Spider-Man, then Cap throwing Mjolnir to save him, an assist from Pepper, then Valkyrie, then Captain Marvel. Meanwhile, Scott having to hotwire the van so they can return the stones, Strange keeping the water out of the battlefield. One action leads into the next, until everyone has their moment to shine. Do you know how monumentally difficult it is to craft something like this? To interweave dozens of characters and make it make sense? This is the kind of movie magic that takes hundreds, maybe even thousands of talented artists years to put together. And that's why Marvel end credits look like this. Good job, guys. Good job. And it doesn't matter how much time has passed or or what else I'll see afterwards, I will always be impressed by this end battle. And speaking of the back and forth between characters, I just have to bring up all the callbacks that happen. Iron Man telling Thor, "Hit me," calling back to the lightning overload in the first Avengers, Sam saying, "On your left," calling back to their friendly rivalry in Winter Soldier, Thor going, "I knew it," when Cap grabs his hammer, great closure to this Age of Ultron scene.
Great! Give it to me.
Going back to their interaction in Civil War, Peter's instant kill, a great payoff to Homecoming, the La Cucaracha van as a callback to Ant-Man 1, Wasp saying Cap as a callback to Ant-Man 2, all these little nuggets that the writers put in here reward us for being fans for more than a decade. And each time one dropped, it felt like an inside joke between the viewer and the movie. This is fan service done right. Not this,
Solo.
or this, or this, or this, or this in Rise of Skywalker when you already did this in Force Awakens. This type of fan service is blatant, empty, and unnecessary, done for all the wrong reasons. But I'm nothing if not fair, and the Endgame battle does have its mistakes. The first one is how Thanos and his army completely stop dead in their tracks and wait politely as all the heroes are portaled in. Every time we cut back to Thanos, he's giving this stupid look, like, "Hey, stop portaling! You guys, stop!" Tell me what he's thinking in a shot like this, because I just don't know. In the context of the plot, it makes absolutely no sense why he isn't charging right now. Also, right before the portals appeared, all the Leviathans were on their way. What, are they just floating in midair while everyone lines up? Doesn't make sense. Another thing you'll notice, and this I think is absolutely hilarious, masks are coming on and off everywhere. After seeing everyone and their mom complaining how in Phase 4, masks keep coming and going to reveal the actors' faces, I'll admit, I made the same complaints in my Quantumania video. It's just hilarious to revisit the Endgame battle and see it was happening long before Phase 4. Let me show you just how bad it is. Even Thanos takes his helmet off, then puts it back on, then takes it back off again? Like, what is that about? It's funny how none of us complained then. I think it's because the story and visuals had us under a spell, that we just accepted this little quirk. But nowadays, Marvel movies have become a little too similar, that we have nothing else to do but zone out or start picking apart the smaller stuff. Also, another tiny thing that bugs me every time I watch this movie, when Scott and Hope fly through the window and grow to full size in the van doesn't budge at all. Cars have suspension, right? Gravity exists, right? I'm no scientist, but two full-grown adults suddenly dropping onto the seats are gonna make that van sink. And another funny thing, the two of them are in this van, but if you keep watching for another few seconds, there's a shot where Ant-Man is back on the battlefield, stuffing a Leviathan through a portal. Oh well. When everything else is so well done, I can forgive a little continuity error like this. But something that didn't quite work for me was this scene. I'm not talking about the message or politics behind it, I'm totally fine with that. The execution was just clumsy, I thought. What, everyone just happened to be close enough in this exact second to offer their help? Suddenly, the epic battle felt very small and claustrophobic. And I love how everyone gives all their effort to clear the way for Captain Marvel, but then she literally just blows through everything anyway. Like, okay, thanks for that. Bye. This scene almost didn't need to be here. I felt like two other moments carried the exact same message. When Wanda starts overpowering Thanos all by herself, and when Captain Marvel doesn't back down when Thanos headbutts her. In my opinion, these two moments did way more for female empowerment, and it did it in a much more subtle and effective way. Two other shots I liked, when Thor attempts to call Stormbreaker, this shot where it rises, and this blast of air that clears all the dirt around it. I think the use of wind is severely underrated in these movies. Same thing in this scene. When Strange turns to Tony and points 1, I love how the wind is rustling his hair a little bit, the smoke and embers floating by, how the camera slowly focuses from his face to his hand, and then Tony finally realizing what he has to do and what he has to sacrifice to do it. In a few seconds, we understand all this. Just masterful shot construction that carries so much weight plot-wise. So at last, we get to the second snap. To see all the enemies slowly dust away was incredibly satisfying. Have you ever noticed Proxima Midnight holding Corvus Glaive in the background? Exactly like how Wanda was holding Vision at the end of Infinity War? This whole battle is worth rewatching because you'll find little details like that. And then Thanos realizing he failed his life goal. It was actually kind of sad in a way. But of course, it doesn't come close to matching the sadness of Tony's death. We had grown so used to him just non-stop jabbering throughout numerous movies that when a complete silence fills the air, it was downright shocking and unsettling. This was a genius move, to have his end be spelled out not with his own words, but with other people's reactions. First, Rhodey coming in and holding his head like a baby. It gets me every time. Though if there was one thing I can nitpick, in this shot his hand blocks the lighting from the nearby flame, but in this shot it doesn't. Alright, sorry. Can't help myself. Then Peter swinging in and saying we won. Bittersweet. And I love how Tony doesn't say anything to these two, but instead saves all his energy for this moment. I was never super invested in their relationship throughout the Iron Man movies, but the fact that this small scene was able to make me tear up shows you how well the directors, writers, and actors knew exactly how to pull at your heartstrings. This was the definitive end of Iron Man, the one character that started the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was never going to be easy to strike that balance for his death. You can tell they came dangerously close to overdoing it with this deleted scene where everyone kneels down. But where they landed instead was definitely the way to go. So at the end of this video, if there's anything I want you to do, go watch Infinity War and Endgame again. Take it all in. Don't look at your phone or fold laundry or whatever. Get to this end battle with everything I said in this video in mind. And tell me you don't start weeping uncontrollably at how good it is. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble. Hey, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.